Welcome to episode 15 of the Brewed Sages, Stormbound players with a head for the game. I am Freeloader, and with me, as always, are my co-hosts, Sabaiku and Arthas. Sabaiku, how's it going tonight?
Fantastic.
And Arthas, how are you doing?
I am doing great.
Well, we are the Brewed Sages, and as a reminder, you can always contact us at Brewed Sages on Twitter, or for all of you who used to binge watch the original X-Men animated series, our email address is thebrewedsages@gmail.com.
Oh my gosh, I binge watched that.
So did I. Wait, how old are you?
I'm getting my kids to watch it right now.
It's fantastic. If you haven't watched it, we recommend. So guys, this will be a little bit of a longer episode than normal. We are chock full of great stuff for all of you. This is kind of our holiday gift to our listeners. It has one of the most important interviews we probably will ever do. I'm so excited to be introing that. Arthas did a fantastic job with it. I'm psyched for all of you guys to hear it. But on top of that, we have patch notes for the upcoming Jan 1 release. We're very excited to be sharing that with all of you guys. And on top of that, we even have hopefully a couple of listener comments that we will be responding to. So it's just kind of like a mega episode. We won't be doing one next week since we're already giving out all this information about the upcoming patch. So with that, Arthas, you have one heck of an interview this week. Tell me about it.
Right, yeah, I actually interviewed another very valued member of the Stormbound community, and I'm sure you're gonna like him. Everyone knows this guy, and it's Reckless Rush, our boy. Man, I was so excited. Finally got him into the podcast, and yeah, he was also really excited to talk about himself, and it was nice that this interview was really good opportunity to learn more about him, and I hope you guys enjoy that one. All right, guys. Well, here we are. We have our special guest here, a very, very well-known member of the Stormbound community, Reckless Rush.
Hello.
Right, Reckless Rush here. He's been making some very good impressions in the community, and a lot of people kind of know him. But in case you don't already know, Reckless Rush, very, very skilled player, and he's actually the one who invented the strongest deck in Stormbound history. But more on that later. Reckless Rush, let's learn a little bit more about you, right? Like let's see, what first brought you to Stormbound, right? How did it even start for you?
So I would consider myself as a person that really enjoys card games. Actually, in my childhood, I used to play a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh, and then I guess that brought me to Hearthstone, which I also thoroughly enjoyed until I guess there's some parts of it that I don't enjoy. So I ended up trying to look for other games that are card games. It's really hard to find a good card game, to be honest. And I ended up getting stuck with Stormbound, which I found on the App Store. Just came across it one day.
What was about it that like really caught your eye, or that was different than the other card games?
Oh, that's actually a really good question. So there's this part of me that also loves upgrading games. I don't know why, but the sense of progression in a game is just so like amazing to me. I love the fact that you start as something small and you can end up as something really big. So this idea of upgrading cards was just so like unknown. This upgrading card game, there's so much potential in it. So I ended up getting so attached to it, honestly, and I started like upgrading cards that I knew I'm going to play and then make decks around that. And then you just have so much fun, experimenting. It's amazing.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. I mean, when I first started, it was the biggest joy that I found was unlocking new cards and seeing like all these cool abilities, right? And it's just motivating me further to like see all the other new abilities because the cards are like hidden at first, and then when you see them and you want to try them out, it's just great.
Mhm.
How long have you have actually been playing Stormbound?
So that's a good question. There's this part where I actually took a big break. So don't recall correctly the exact date, but give or take, it was about 3 years ago. And for whatever reason, I guess I'm just always this type of aggressive rush player. I've always been that kind of person. So I got hooked on Swarm really fast. And it was in this time when, at this time, Ami used to have 3 strength at level 1. So from what it is now, it used to have
Oh
plus
man, I
1 strength.
remember that.
And its effect was also different, slightly different. So I used to love playing this card. I was like trying to get all my fusion stones, investing only in this, playing Ami spam decks. It was so fun. And then I guess this at the same time the meta was really heavy like dragon reliant. And for whatever reason I kind of got discouraged because after playing like the progression wasn't that good in a way where I kept trying to reach high ranks with these decks, and it just didn't work out, and I kind of got bored out of it. So I guess from there, I took 1 year break approximately. I came back to the game, and at that time, I still had my old deck, right? So I picked up on that deck, got myself up to Diamond 5 with base health 14, which
Whoa, okay.
some players it was like they said it was pretty good, and then that's when I started thinking this is apparently considered good, right? Like base health 14, and then I was thinking, could I do better? Because this isn't an account that I started from scratch, obviously, but it would my intention was not to make it base health 14 to diamond. I just guess gradually grinded that way because I always play swarm. So I decided to make a new account. That's not the only reason why I created my second account. There was another reason where, because once you reach high rank at like low, I guess, levels, you could say, then when the season resets, you're playing with players of really high, like a lot. There's a huge level disparity there. So
Yeah.
from Diamond 5, when I have like maybe like a level 3 deck average, then ending up you're playing with Diamond 1 players, and it's actually unplayable. It was literally unplayable. I could not win a single game in every 14 games. I could not win, no matter what I did, and I didn't have the levels or the cards to even make a deck. So the game was literally stale. I could not win a single game, and then that's when I was just like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm gonna make a new account, and then I made the account Reckless Rush, right? And I don't even know where I got the name from. Honestly, I just loved the card Restless Goats, and then I just tried to make a name over that, and then I combined Swarm Rush with this. So I guess this came to be Reckless Rush. And so my intention with this account, however, was literally only leveling up cards that you will use in the future. So I actually spent a lot of time theory crafting in my head, not even like playing the game, just thinking like what could make the best deck, right? And yeah, I came across this combination of cards. There was a few cards I upgraded that I shouldn't have technically because they weren't in the final version of the Reckless Rush deck, but on the way to like, trial and error. I've played more than thousands and thousands of games with the same deck. Like it's kind of unbelievable to some of you because I know you guys love creativity and playing different decks. But I've played this deck from start to finish, like you don't even know, over a year from since it became a thing. So
It's a very big part of your identity then. I mean, it is named after you, right? Reckless Rush?
yeah, exactly. You got it.
And if you guys don't already know, the watchers here, Reckless Rush, the deck, you can actually find it on Stormbound Kitty. It has its own section there for the deck, as well as the amazing Reckless Rush guide on how to play and optimize the deck and your playstyle, written by Reckless Rush himself. Also found on Stormbound Kitty. It's really, really in depth, and I am very, very certain that even if you don't intend on playing Reckless Rush, or maybe you want to play other types of Rush, like just Rush in general, you will definitely be able to transfer some of the skills and techniques that you learn from such a meticulous guide that I'm sure it's going to improve your gameplay very much. But right, the amazing thing about this deck, Reckless Rush, is that Berzosa he mentioned one time, several months ago, he mentioned that Reckless Rush was way too strong. And everyone was like, what was it like? What was the win percentage? Or something like that. And unfortunately, he couldn't really disclose any of the data or anything like that. But he did tell us that it is the strongest deck in Stormbound history, and nothing comes close to it. Subsequently, he started adding a bunch of buffs to the control playstyle to like slow down the massive growth that Reckless Rush
Yeah.
kind of sparked in the community. And it's just great. Reckless, what kind of like the best kind of tips or things that you hope people never forget or want to always put in their gameplay when they want to try out Reckless Rush?
So when trying out Reckless Rush, honestly, the biggest issue people have, like even before playing the deck, is actually making the deck. The deck is actually fairly easy to get, I'd say, compared to other decks because it doesn't have any legendaries and it only has 3 epic cards. But still, some new players will have trouble gathering those epic cards. So that's would be my first, I guess, main tip to actually play the deck. You need to actually have the cards for it. Otherwise, you will have to make some substitutes, which I mean, they can work, but they're not as effective, right? And I guess the second tip would be play the game. You can only get better by playing the game. That's a fact. And even if you read guides and watch other gameplay and you learn from there, you still won't be able to take all that knowledge and apply it to your game unless you actually play the game. So play the game. I've spent countless hours manifesting this deck, so I obviously know the ins and outs of everything, all the counters, basically everything. And if you want more tips, there's other sources like Arthas just mentioned. You can check out my guide. There are a few tips in there that can help you get a good grasp on the foundation of it.
Right. And what about those people who are, maybe afraid of dropping a few ranks or something, trying to learn a deck? Like, what's your encouragement for something like that? Because I know a lot of people, they tend to find some loyalty with a deck when they find some success with it, right? And trying a new one can be quite scary.
Yeah, makes sense. That's a good question. So this is kind of, I guess, a little bit insightful to something outside of the RR's topic here. But for newer players, when you're in gold and below, when you're in gold and below, so that would mean iron, bronze, silver, and gold. If you lose 3 games consecutively, either through concedes or actual defeats, you will actually face a bot. And a bot is typically a pretty easy opponent because they just don't have the capacity to play like a normal human being, and they just have lower level cards than the average player in that rank. So by playing against a bot, you actually have a really high chance of winning. On top of that, I don't really see a reason to not play from the fear of losing, because if you got to a certain rank, you can most definitely get back to that rank just from playing. Because over span of like 100 games, for example, there's obviously going to be a range of where you actually fit in, and in most cases you will actually climb past the rank you currently are in. So that's actually how I myself started with the deck, because I already knew about this 3 defeats bot method. That's how I actually grinded gold every single day. So for 20 days since the deck was made, I sat myself down and I would max out my gold every single day by doing this method. So not only by doing this method, obviously you want to win when you can, but I personally feel like if you know, or if you feel that you're going to lose the game, then I don't really see a reason to play it out, because if you concede early, I guess you kind of save yourself time. You save yourself the anger from, almost winning, I guess, or not even almost winning, just from losing like that bad. So
It's like you went out on your own terms.
yeah, I guess so. So I would just exactly. So I would used to actually concede the games that I would lose, that I feel like I would lose, and then I would just play from there. I'd gold max every day, and believe it or not, in 20 days from when that account was created, completely free to play, I was able to climb to platinum, which is pretty amazing, I'd guess I'd say, because the deck level average was pretty low. It was actually a 1.75, and again, it was only with these cards in the deck. So that's kind of absurd in a way to get to platinum in 20 days from the account was created. But again, it's just a matter of playing, not giving up, and just continuously like putting yourself in the mindset that losing is fine. You're going to get back up to the rank that you were previously in.
Or that's very very well said. Now, Reckless, I also heard that you're a content creator in the community. And well, what kind of content do you make, and like where?
Yep, you're right. Wherever you heard that from is correct. I am currently on YouTube. I actually gathered the motivation to create a YouTube channel solely from you guys. You guys are amazing, and you guys were a lot of you were supportive of this deck, and you really wanted to learn how to play the deck. So I sat myself down. That's when I actually made the guide on Stormbound Kitty, where Arthas Rue mentioned you can find it on Stormbound Kitty. After that, I decided people still need more help. Some educational guides or some educational videos would be helpful for this. So I sat myself down, I made a YouTube channel, and the main focus was to help players understand how to play this deck. But I also wanted to get a little more creative. So I started doing other series as well, such as there's this one series called Rush to Diamond, where that's the one where I play only on the Reckless Rush deck and see how fast we can progress, kind of as a team, because I'm not playing any games off stream, or off camera, you could say. I'm playing the games and you guys are all watching it. So I'm not doing anything like any hidden activity here. You guys can see myself play the game, and you'll see the progression, how I can climb and how do I play the game. And I give a lot of insightful tips as well. On top of that, I have this other series that many of you also enjoy called Guess the Rank. I'm trying to make it a lot more collaborative, where I want to engage the community with this video. So in the beginning, I actually made it just a normal upload, and it was pretty fun to make actually, where players face off against one another and they record their screens. So then I can actually upload it to YouTube, and essentially each player plays against one another, and you have to guess who in that pool of players is the diamond player. So you have to, I guess, look at what they're doing good and what they're doing bad, and then just give your best prediction on who you really think was the best player there. But recently I've decided maybe we should make this series live. So I'm going to actually try and stream this type of series, and then hopefully we can get a lot of more people watching the stream, and we can do live polls. And that, I think that'd be amazing. That'd be so fun. And we're going to see if we can also get special guests involved as well.
Ooh, I see. Much like you are right now.
Thanks.
And guys, I mean, that's not the only thing he does. I mean, currently he's actually hosting a joust, like a mini tournament in the Discord. Don't want to talk about it too much because I mean he has made a lot, but he's made some very interesting ones, especially like the draft tournaments where he programmed the bot to help you draft the deck from scratch, and that's been so much fun. He's also very innovative. Any of like the rule sets and the many different and creative ways to play the game. It's just an amazing like fresh set of eyes on the game, and like finding new ways for us to enjoy it. It's just amazing. And I think Reckless Rush, was it the first time you streamed live that other day? Because you were streaming on YouTube or Twitch or both.
So I was streaming on YouTube that day, and that was actually uploaded to my channel in case anyone wanted to watch it after. But this wasn't actually my first time streaming technically. I used to actually stream on Discord quite often, I guess. I guess it was on and off, right? It wasn't really consistent with it, but I wanted to make it something consistent, but something's got in the way. Regardless, I used to stream on Discord, and I know we had an audience there as well, which was pretty fun. I really liked talking to people, right? Talking to people is like so much fun because this is actual live, and I don't have to be reading a chat all the time. I'm actually speaking with people at the same time as I'm playing, which was a lot of fun for me. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, it's very nice to feel like really connected with the Stormbound community, because I think it's pretty wholesome, at least from my experience and a few others that I know. And I'd like to hear like what are your thoughts or any sentiments you have about the Stormbound community.
To be honest, our Stormbound community is quite small, but small doesn't always mean like boring or bad. In my opinion, this small community is quite amazing to say the least. For example, I never would have seen myself starting a YouTube channel in any day of the year. I would never have started a YouTube channel. But I know this community, they're very like thankful for what the community does. So I decided, okay, I'll sit myself down and I'll give back to the community. And we're still growing as a channel on my YouTube, which I'm really proud of. On top of that, like Arthas Rue mentioned, I am hosting some tournaments. I try to make my tournaments fair and like fun, I guess. As he mentioned, I try to make it really creative because I like this idea of creativity, and I really want to import or add more creativity to the community because there's a lot of things we can do, but no one's doing them. So I really want to expand, I guess, our community outwards, maybe grow to be something even bigger, and overall just have fun because that's really what it's all about.
Yeah, it's pretty great to see a growth in the engagement in the community and seeing people find more passion towards the game, especially when the game's growing pretty fast now that Sheepyard is taking the wheel, right? And what do you think about what Sheepyard has been doing so far? What's the game? How do you like the changes they've been making?
So this is actually a tough question, and there's a couple reasons why, but it's not tough in the sense that it's pretty obvious. What Sheepyard is doing is like from the ground up just amazing because they took this relatively dead game which was stale for the longest time, and they're trying to be as active as possible, which I am so thankful for. Their post and their activity on other social media platforms is actually amazing. How they do like daily Instagram posts or daily Twitter posts, or just trying to engage the community and like giving them free stuff for being more active, right? That part of them is pretty cool in my opinion. I like some of their balance changes. I think for the most part they have been doing a decent job on balance changes, but some of them, unfortunately, I have to say, some of them have been questionable, and I don't want to go too much into that, but some of them I haven't been the biggest fan of. But other than that, they've done a good job. I think also their new cards, they have a good like paper value to them. But I just wish that, they kind of took more time to look at what it is that the community, what this game needs in a sense, because there's a lot of ways they can expand and be more creative with the cards, and I feel like some of that part is just being left out, and I'd really like to see more work being done on that. Other than that, their engagement into the community and their ways of adding new content to the game has been actually like pretty cool because, for example, there's a lot of improvements they've made to the game, and I'm pretty thankful for it. Like the calendar was actually a good addition to the game. I like how they try their best to fix bugs when they come out. They're really fast on that. And like I said, I think it's really cool to be able to talk to developers on the Discord. That part is pretty cool too. I've never actually talked to like developers of any other game I've played. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah, that's my favorite part about all this is that Berzosa like being so active in the community and really like addressing people and like having fun with them. I mean, when I was streaming that other day and he just came on to like say hi, and then he was there on voice chat in the Discord and he started leaking stuff. It was just great.
yeah,
Um, Right, I'm pretty sure I'm allowed to say because he did leak it in front of a bunch of other people. But he mentioned they're gonna be adding six legendary structures in the game. That's kind of mad. That's just one of the few big leaks that he mentioned during that little hop on. But like you can talk to him, and it's just great to have that kind of interaction with the developers, right? So Reckless, if you had a particular, let's say a Christmas wish, is there something realistic you would like to see in the game in the future?
realistic.
Okay, as
I'm
realistic
looking.
as you can.
Yeah. Honestly, like I said, I for the most part I think Sheepyard's doing a good job considering how stale it was for the longest time before they actually entered the scene. There's a couple things I would actually like to see. I think well they're currently working on it too, I believe. Like they always drop some leaks here and there, and I know that they would definitely take the game into the right direction as they're doing right now. So some things would be massively like cool to me would be actually a new faction. I know that would take so much
Oh
work, so
yeah.
much time to do, but when that does come out, I'm probably going to be so excited for that. Hopefully it most likely will not be the same as More Rush though, so I'll probably drop it soon, but I think it'd be fun to experiment and have fun with. Any additions to the game will always make the game a lot more lively, right?
Oh yeah.
So new factions and I guess some changes to the economy to deal with farmers. Not a big fan of how that was working out right now. And I believe, like I said, I believe they're working on it. So hopefully they have find a good solution and they can put it into the game and then get rid of these negative aspects that are attached to the game.
Definitely great, and you're definitely not alone. A lot of your opinions there. I mean, a lot of people in the Discord and the community share that, and they are vocal about it. And that's not necessarily bad because then the developers are there to listen and to react to what we have to say. So, as for one more time to wrap up this little segment, Reckless, for any of your fans or new fans now after introducing you into the podcast, where can they find you again?
Oh, so you can find me on YouTube, which is just Reckless Rush, so it should be easy to find. And well, I'm for the most part really active on the Discord, so if you ever want to join the official Stormbound server, and yeah, we can talk there as well.
All right. Well, there you have it, guys. The prodigy, Reckless Rush, very valued member of the community. Reckless, it's been a real pleasure having you here. It's such a wonderful time talking and learning about you more.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Honestly, I had a great time, and I hope we can do this maybe some other time in the future.
Yeah, maybe. Think we can do that.
Okay, guys. So along with that fantastic interview, I've got to say, just wow, like it hit on so many cool aspects. I know we have a ton to talk about, but I want to stop for a minute. Did he ever actually tell you, Arthas, what his original account was? Does he ever use it anymore?
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't sure if I was gonna ask him because
Right? You
he's
don't want to
he's
blow up his spot.
he's really manifested his Reckless Rush identity. So well, let's keep it that way.
Okay, fair enough. But just so you all realize, any one of you might be playing him on ladder and you don't even know it.
If you're losing on the 5-mana turn, it probably Reckless Rush. But for real, this a very thoughtful and considerate guy, and he puts a lot of care and analysis into his decks and the way he plays them, and it's evident on his YouTube channel. If you watch any of his videos, he's talking about really a lot of micro decisions that he makes every turn. He considers every aspect of what he's doing, and it's fantastic to see someone put that much effort into it and has that much passion for the game.
Yeah, I mean, I learn more just by watching him, or more importantly, listening to him explain what he's doing, than I learn by doing anything else in this game. Arthas, what do you think?
It's really nice to when I do go up on his like streams, especially the Discord ones, because I get to talk to him as well. I know that I myself am a very meticulous kind of player, especially like in general, but more especially in Stormbound. I'm always analyzing every little bit, no matter how small it may affect the game, and just like optimizing my decision making, and I do that on a constant basis whenever I'm playing, and it's just amazing when I hear someone else do exactly that as well, and they're making their own optimized decision trees for like their deck, and it's even more cool when I get to like argue with like, oh, what I would do here instead versus what he would do, and it usually ends. It usually is a very interesting conversation because there are a lot that goes behind it, even though some people are like, wait, how does that matter? It's just great having a very attentive mind that like Reckless does around in the community.
Yeah, and I have to say I'm really touched that he gives us credit for inspiring his YouTube channel. I mean, that's really cool, but I think he might give us a little too much credit. I there was clamoring for a YouTube channel from him for a long time before we were around, and I'm thankful he's finally doing it. So, guys, with that, let's move on. Next up is our main topic of the night, which is patch notes were released early this month. I assume, although I don't know, that Sheepyard chose to release the patch notes a little early so they could go away for a bit of a holiday. So rather than releasing it with just a few days to go, they released it on the 21st. And what that means for us is we have a ton to talk about. First and foremost, Sabaiku, how do you feel about 50% off your brawl?
You know we love that.
Oh, baby. Yeah, give me that mythic. Arthas, give me that mythic. Arthas, what do you think?
I mean, I've been saving up gold this time. About
Ooh.
to hit. I'm about to hit 7K for once. There's so many cards I want to upgrade, but I just have to save up for this brawl because it's such a big deal. I really want those like 50 fusion stones or more, depending on
We're
the
looking
brawl.
forward to seeing you at the top of the leaderboard.
Yeah, right next to the Merc. You're not going to supplant the Merc. No one supplants the Merc, but right up there. So along with that, guys, the other one that's coming back as well that I'm very excited about, because I've been saving up rubies for this, is that every card pack you buy in the store, so not that you earn in the brawl, but that you buy in the store, whether you use money or gold or rubies, will give you one extra card. Arthas, what do you think?
No spoilers for like the shop offers that we know about as well, but I am gonna be dropping all of my rubies again onto Mythics. Gonna be doing an unboxing again in the Discord stream. So if you guys are interested in that, I did something similar in the anniversary. Obviously, it's not gonna be as hype as the anniversary because nothing's gonna surpass the insane sales back then. But I'm pretty sure this one's gonna be very exciting too.
And Sabaiku, a huge quality of life improvement. I know you're suffering from carpal tunnel, having to flip through the library looking for the right card. Talk to me. What are they doing?
We're gonna get a slider to move through the collection.
Oh my
No
god.
more tap 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 tap. Oh hey, I found my Siren of the Seas.
Or swipe. That's even worse.
Oh my god.
This-
It's the little things that make it just so much easier to play the game.
Oh, for sure. I'm actually really excited about just doing it, just like to use it like a flip book thing.
well,
I
not
got
just that actually. There's also the deck filter. You know how we have the recent new all deck fits thing where it's
Yes.
neutral and your faction. There's also one that you see all the factions and the neutral together. So
Yeah,
pretty
that's
cool.
already out. I love that. I turn that on all the time now just to flip through and see what's left to be upgraded.
I do too. Even though it's so much less efficient to move through, it's so pretty to see all the cards from all the different factions laid out side by side like that.
Yeah, the color scheme of all the cards together is just really pleasing for some silly, like, whatever reason. I just like doing it. So moving on from there, there are some additional changes, balance changes to certain cards in the game. We only have one that is like a definite nerf, and I don't want to give ourselves too much credit on this one, but we did mention in our last episode that linked golems felt a little too strong in the meta right now. And so, Sabaiku, what's going on with it?
I want to make it clear we were not exactly at the front of the pack on this discussion. A lot of people were complaining about linked golems. A lot of people knew that it was just way too much and had been saying that for a very long time. So
Oh, come on. But Berzosa literally told us himself because we talked about it in the podcast. They put this nerf earlier.
it was already on their radar, but they did, because we talked about it, they did step it up and bring it in a month earlier than they were planning to. Linked golems will be nerfed. So now the strength will be actually increased at the lower levels. It'll be 22333, but the ability is decreased from level 1 to level 5. It used to be 23345. Now it'll be 12234. So the net effect here is that linked golems themselves are a little bit stronger. The unit that they buff is a little bit weaker, and the overall stats that you used to get a total of 5 stats at level 1, 7, 8, 10, and 13 as you level it up. Now it'll be a total of 4 stats at level 1, 6, 7, 9, and 11 as you level it up. So it's down 1 at each level, except at level 5 it's down 2 strength. I think that this is a fantastic change. I think it brings the power level of the card down in a way that we all appreciate. However, it doesn't kill the card. The card is still very strong in all aspects. It's strong value, it's strong tempo, still very playable. It's still a card you want to build around, but now it's not overwhelming.
Yeah, I mean, one stat, like one strength difference at like most of the levels, it's actually a pretty big change. I mean, think about when you level a lot of your cards, right? When you level them up, you also gain one strength usually, and this means that it's so much easier for people to battle any ironclads who are a little bit higher level than them. It's much easier. They need like one less level to keep up. That's a pretty big deal. And it's nice that they didn't completely destroy like its design by like doing anything crazy with like mana or movement. It is still the Link Golems we know and love. It's just a little more tame now.
Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic. I think it's still an incredibly powerful card. At level 5, 11 strength on the board for 3 mana is still pretty darn good. um, so I think this is absolutely a step in the right direction. I also like that they're not. One of the things that I want to compliment Sheepyard for, because it popped into my mind when I was looking at this, is they have a very steady hand on the tiller. Even when they want to make changes, they're not giant knee-jerk changes, swinging like hard one way and then hard the other, and we're not seeing giant swings of cards. When they make adjustments, they make them small. And so the nice thing about that from a player's perspective is that even after January 1st, this card will still play more or less the same way it always has. Its impact on the game will be diminished, but you play it effectively in the same exact spot you always play it, with give or take more or less the same kind of power spike that you're hoping to get from your 3 mana epic. It's just slightly diminished. So I like that. I think it's a good step. I worry though that we might be a month or two away from a second, maybe tone down of it as well. And if that has to happen, great. If I'm wrong, also great. It means, we didn't make too big of a swing in the first time.
Yeah, I think it is possible that we will see a second rework of this card. That's a really good point you made, Freeloader. The Link Golems themselves, looking at the numbers, still have the same strength at every level except for level 5. So it's really mostly decreasing the strength of the unit that it's buffing, the construct that you play it next to, which I think is the right way to go about this. But the overall value is still very strong. So it's still definitely something you want to play around, and still definitely something you're going to see every time you play an Ironclad deck.
Yeah, I'm not so sure of that. The biggest, so just looking at it from how I've been playing around it, if I deny a value trade by the linked golems, if I recognize that it might get played the following turn and I position my units so there can't be a value trade, that tends to be when I win the game. If my opponent can get an early value trade from the linked golems, so in other words, the golems clears something and remains behind with 1 or 2 health, then my opponent just has so much initiative. It's such a swing turn. By not reducing the power, the effective overall power of the link golems themselves, that's the unit that does the trade, not the other one. So the same value trades that my opponent might be able to get now, they'll be able to get in January. And so I'm not 100% sure yet whether or not this has been diminished enough in power that it's not going to be OP. Still, I would advise to everybody who plays against Ironclad, try to think about where a link golems could be played against a construct that would then generate a value trade and prevent that from happening. Don't put your units there if you can avoid it, because I think that's still the big power spike. So moving on from there, we have a couple of buffs. Arthas, talk me through Sunbeam Serpents.
Right, Sunbeam Serpents. I'm glad that they're taking a look at Shadowfen Dragons because man, they're such forgotten cards, and it's not even Forgotten Souls. But
Oh,
right, Sunbeam
Yo.
Serpents getting buffed. Pretty big one actually. If you guys already know the ability of Sunbeam, it is that it gains the strength of the strongest bordering friendly dragon. That's what it is right now before the update. But now they're completely removing the bordering condition. If you just happen to have a really strong dragon anywhere on the board, playing Sunbeam Serpents will gain that same amount of strength. And this is amazing because now it's not so horribly confined to that positioning condition, because that makes it harder to get the value from the strength gain. Like, let's say, this is a perfect time to pressure the enemy base. Oh, but your dragon was just like not in the right spot for you to get the full value. Or if it's like blocked in places, now you don't have to worry about that. It's even easier now to do Shadowfen Dragons, and it might actually be viable, especially with the recent Cordia buff.
Which I love.
Yeah. To get some good value from Sunbeam, all you need is just spare Dragonling on any dragon, and then you just play Sunbeam, and they're both big, big and chunky.
you can create a big threat for less mana than if you play Dangerous Suitors, right? It gives Shadowfen Dragons just something else, which it was really lacking before. You could do the Cordia spam and try to position it so that the eggs survived, or try to get lucky so that the eggs survived. But now you just actually have just another legitimate mid-range threat that you can put down and your opponent has to deal with. It's no longer confined to something you have to play next to your base because you used your Beasts of Terror defensively or whatever.
Another insight is that because you can now easily have the Sunbeam strength buff, it's so much less vulnerable to meta cards like Confinement, because Dangerous Suitors, although they can go really big, Confinement kind of just shreks that card. But with Sunbeam, when you do play it for good value, there are two large dragons on the board, so they're gonna have to start picking and choosing what they want to deal with, and then that's gonna build a lot of value for you because the enemy has to invest much more resources dealing with your Sunbeam than how much you actually put in.
And not for nothing, but there's the lack of positioning requirement means that not that you have to always play around Siren of the Seas, but this allows you to play around Siren of the Seas, right? You don't have to put the two units right next to each other where Siren could clear them both. Now they could be split apart. They could be in columns 1 and 4, for example. The other thing I really like about it is it allows you to play one big unit defensively if you have to, like a Dansu, and then you can play your Sunbeam offensively on their baseline to pressure simultaneously, the following turn, or vice versa. If you put something really big far forward and your opponent just decides to try to rush around you, now your Sunbeam Serpents can be a giant, get a huge value trade for you, and then still be a very big body kind of clogging the board near your baseline defensively, which feels great.
You're going to definitely try to hit the curve where you go Cordia, and then on the very next turn, spare Dragonling, buff something that survives, anything that survives from your Cordia turn into Sunbeam Serpents on their baseline. Like it's going to flow so much better.
Oh yeah.
That's a spicy setup. It was not, however, guys, the only dragon to get buffed. And I know we've got a very special buff with the next one. We'll talk about it right afterwards. The next dragon that got buffed, Arthas, also has a new keyword. So talk us through the buff, and then we'll discuss this keyword.
And if you guys haven't already seen my most recent video, shameless advertising, but I played a Zuri deck, And I mentioned on the video as well that yeah, Zuri's getting buffed. Pretty cool. Even better, they added a new mechanic to the game. So they didn't actually change anything with the positional conditions or the mana or the ability, none of that. But they added this new mechanic called Vitality. And well, basically, when Zuri flies over his friendly units, not only does he buff the units in strength, but he also vitalizes them. And Vitality is a status effect, much easily compared to Poison, but actually reverse version. At the start of your turn, the unit gains 1 strength before moving. So it's kind of like how Poison it reduces the strength by 1 each start of the turn. This is just the opposite version of that. And so this means that when you start buffing cards like in by your backline, you back then it would be kind of like, oh, that's like not so good. Like sure you put a lot of value, but it's not very threatening for the enemy. This way now you can actually slow roll a really nice Zuri because the more number of turns that your unit is on the board, the more it's growing and growing. You know, it's great.
And Sabaiku, it's interesting that Arthas mentioned poison in relation to vitality because there's actually an interplay between those two effects. Can you talk us through that?
That's right. Vitality is now a counter to poison. When you add vitality to a unit, when you vitalize it, you will remove the poison effect while you're adding the vitality keyword. And vice versa. If you poison a vitalized unit, you will remove the vitality status effect while you're adding the poison effect. So now you have a nice way to interact between those two mechanics.
Poison being a Shadowfen effect and Zuri being a swarm card. You think normally Shadowfen is highly favored against swarm decks. In this case, does this make you think that maybe Swarm has some stronger counterplay to Shadowfen?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, as a loyal Poison fan, because Poison is what brought me so high in this game, and I still love that playstyle. It's kind of sucky to see it. They're still indirectly nerfing it. They already added Elders, which killed Poison, and then there's this too. But I'm not really complaining. It's just a little bit of sadness because I am loyal to it. But I really love the dynamic though, because it's not like Poison can't do anything about it. Poison still can replace the status effect of units that are vitalized. So it's a really nice back and forth. And what's so lovely about this vitality mechanic is that it really adds more playstyle options in the game. It starts rewarding people who love to play slow because I know there are a lot of buffing cards, right? Something like Zuri or like Fort Tonic, but they're kind of like a one-time thing. This one, it's like, okay, I can actually reap better rewards when I invest them earlier and like slower. And it's really cool that people can now make those kind of decisions in their game. It just adds so much more depth, and I love it when they do that.
So I do worry about the downside, though, where the unit grows every turn. I worry that there could be a snowball effect where the unit gets buffed and buffed and buffed as it marches down the board, and if your opponent can't deal with it immediately, then it's even less likely that they'll be able to deal with it later on. I think as only a +1 gain every turn, it's probably going to be pretty reasonable. It's definitely going to be something that we'll have to keep our eye on and try to see, is it something that causes games to get out of hand, especially if it's played on an Elder.
It's much more significant in the earlier levels, with 1 strength being a pretty big percentage difference, right?
Oh, for
That's
sure.
true too, yeah.
The other thing that's interesting about it is it's actually sort of, I know it seems kind of counterintuitive, but it's got anti-synergy with command because this is a long-term investment in this unit. You're giving it vitality with the hope that it will grow. And so every time you command it forward, you're skipping a turn of growth. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Do you want to play a lot of command cards in a vitality deck, or do you want to slow play it and let them have their time to grow? I don't know what the answer would
I think the answer is you vitalize your petrified fossils.
be. Oh man. Okay. Okay. When Savaiku drops the petrified fossil swarm deck, we will share that deck list with you. Don't you worry.
Oh,
No, but another interesting interplay here. If you look at the interaction between vitality and the freeze mechanic, right? As a winter deck, if you're looking to stall the game out and freeze the opponent's units, this really punishes you for doing that, because now these units get bigger every turn that they're still on the board, and they just become harder and harder to deal with. That might be something too, a nice way to counter a freeze effect. We talked about how Swarm can use that command keyword to try to counter the stall from a freeze deck, and this might be another way that Swarm has to kind of level the playing field.
That's a really, really good point. I hadn't thought about that. So in one matchup, it maintains and in fact maybe even reinforces its favored status, Swarm into Winter Pact, and in the other one, it gives it more of a balanced matchup when it was otherwise unfavored. I like that. What I know MKM won't like is that we also have some burfs, and I know how much he loves the word burf, but
Stop teasing him about it.
I'm sorry. Anybody who's almost as old as me deserves to get teased by me every day of the week. So birth number one, Sabaiku, walk me through Potion of Growth.
Barf number 1 is on Pog. So -1 ability on all levels. It used to buff 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just does less all the way around. But in compensation for that, it gets vitality. It
Woohoo!
vitalizes a unit you cast it on. So it is less of a buff on the turn that you play it, but if the unit sticks around, breaks even at one turn, and anything else, it's just an improvement. So in a Reckless Rush style deck where you're looking to play Potion of Growth and Forgotten Souls on the same turn, you will take a little bit of a hit. You will do a little bit less damage. But if you play Potion of Growth on something that you're sticking on your opponent's baseline and you're protecting it so that it marches in on its own next turn, it'll still be the same amount of damage.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about with the inadvertent, or maybe I shouldn't say inadvertent, it might be very advertent, but indirect nerf to command cards, right? Is that now suddenly Potion of Growth plus command, that vitality in that kind of play is actually irrelevant because you won't the unit won't stay on the board long enough for it to ever reap the benefits. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm fairly confident, but I'm not reckless. So I'll say that up front. But I'm fairly confident that Pog still stays in that deck. Arthas, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean it's still really strong, right? But I mean this makes it so that personal servers are actually might be a bit more appealing because it has +1 value than Potion of Growth, ignoring the growth from the vitality, right? But it is still a very unique card where you can just give strength to a unit of choice, focus all that strength to just one, and then working with that, right? I mean, yeah, one strength is, like I said before, it is a pretty decent deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially because in a game where levels matter. Um, but I don't think it's gonna like kill the card in Reckless Rush. It does play a pretty vital role role in the card in the deck. Sorry.
All right, so moving on from there, we have actually another Swarm card, and this I think has to be my personal most excited change to the game Jan 1. Sabaiku, walk me through what they are doing with Broken Truce.
Another birth, Broken Truce, gains 1 mana, goes from 3 mana to 4 mana. It will still destroy a target unit or structure with a cap that increases based on level. So you destroy something with 12 or less strength, for example. However, this time around, Broken Truce has a mini AoE. Any spare damage, any leftover damage will be randomly spread among all surrounding units or structures. So if you use your 12 strength cap Broken Truce to remove a 6 strength minion, everything surrounding will take another 6 strength of damage. And that should be your units as well, so be careful with that.
Arthas, I love this. What do you think?
I think it's really cool because now it's basically another talk sack for Swarm this time though. But the thing that makes me excited is that with Broken Truth being quite underplayed, its only real benefit is that it can destroy large enemies, right? That's like the only time you want to use it because taking damage to your base, like 3 damage, right? That is pretty big. You don't want to waste it on a small unit, but now there's actually a pretty good reason to do it. if it racks up a lot of value. And what I love about this is they're really expanding the archetypes for Swarm, guys. It's not just Rush anymore because, well, for one, with Vitality, mid range is going to be even more apparent, a little bit more effective, right? With Zuri and Potion of Growth, building up tempo. But here, Broken Truths with this like really strong AOE effect, actually.
Really strong AoE. You're paying
Yeah,
for it. 4 mana is that's a big change going from 3 to 4 mana. Let's be clear about that.
yeah. Okay, so like for example, level 5, 18 strength. If you put it, if you hit something with 1 strength, it's 17 damage all around. Okay,
And that
and you know,
now, one thing we didn't say, none of that splash damage will hit base. It's only
yeah,
for
no.
units. It's only for towers on the board or units on the board, not base at all.
What's also great is that it doesn't have to be an enemy unit you're broken trucing. You can broken truce your own unit. Like if you're playing Merz and you're playing a swarm control deck, Merz is pretty tiny, right? You can combo that with broken truce and deal some serious damage. And I just love that like swarm control is getting some love because that's been a joke archetype for a while.
This may be, I'm not sure yet. This may be the best control card in the game.
I don't know about that. So let's talk about the downside is significant. You take 3 damage to your base, and
Sure.
Swarm is not a class that has healing, right? It's not.
Yes.
You're not allowed to just drop Ulf unless you like capture it with Harvester of Souls or something. But you can't really count on that. So it is hard to use this repeatedly. But the fact that it is flexible like Toxic Sacrifice, you can use it in a lot of different situations.
Well, yes, but also there are times where your opponent does something like they box up, right? So they're in one of your corners, biggest unit is in the corner, surrounded by 3 small units. And there's just no way you can toxac your way out of that. You're taking damage in that situation. Broken Truce, that just might be a full clear.
Yeah, and like to add on to what Subaika said, where you can't really use it repeatedly. Although that is a downside, using it just 1 or 2 times makes a pretty significant difference.
Right.
That
That
and
is
I
true.
just
Yeah.
love that it's not just an auto cycle in your deck. That you actually there are moments that you can save your butt really hard in a way that like other factions can't really do.
It takes a card that was so situational, it was rarely used, and it turns it into something that you can really use defensively almost any time. And that I don't want to minimize that. Like that is really important. We talked about how a lot of these changes, Sheepyard is making it look like they want to expand the pool of playable cards. This is a playable card now. You can use this all the time.
For
And
sure.
like you said, Arthur, it's just using it once or twice in a match might be enough to turn the tide.
Yeah, and I want to remind people that this is also very good against structures because something like a turn 2 true shot post by the enemy can easily just end your game when you don't have an answer, or like at least back then with like Frozen Core or anything like that, or even Underground Spring because they're so hard to deal with. Broken Truce deals with them. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's really good. So we have one more to talk about, Arthas. Walk me through Chilled Stone Dames.
Oh, this one's pretty crazy. Honestly, I'm a bit shocked seeing the kind of change they gave here. But it is still a buff. But I'm gonna say it's a buff. It's a it's a buff. All right. So mana increase from 4 to 5. So now 5 mana. Same strength, same movement. But they changed the ability. In the current state, Chilled Stone Dames, after surviving damage, it destroys all weaker enemy units in front. That was really, really bad back then, having the weaker thing and Chilled Stone Dames not being that strong in the first place. But now, they actually removed the weaker part of the condition. It just now destroys all enemy units in front, no matter how freaking large. Like, if there's if there's 4 100 strength rhymes, level 1 Chilled Stone Dames can clear all of them theoretically. It's crazy, but like it's so powerful in terms of like the control and with the change this big, I'm gonna call it already. Chilled Stone Dame is gonna be winter meta. It's incredibly powerful because with things like Zuri being popular now, right, with the buff, and things with Ironclad mid range still being strong, this can wipe entire columns, guys.
Yeah, but it can't. So the thing that I'm worried about with it though is that most people don't collimate their attack. They tend to go wide. and try to do things like base lock or try to, you know what I mean? So I'm not sure in general how much value if you can get a value trade with the Chillstone Dames and then clear 2 units, I think that's amazing. I also think that's really hard to do. I just don't I can't think of too many board states where you're gonna have 3 units in a row like that.
It's going to be very situational. However, if you're playing against a lot of slower decks, like Arthur said, mid-range decks, Zuri decks, maybe, it's definitely going to be useful. I think it's something that if you're trying to play a winter control deck, you're definitely going to want to have it in the deck.
Oh yeah.
But then you're going to start to face rush decks and cycle it a lot and think maybe this isn't really particularly useful, or you're going to play it against 3 units in a column and think to yourself, well, if I just had Siren of the Seas, it would have done the same thing. Plus, I could use that as a runner.
It's a lot more expensive though.
A lot more expensive, don't get me wrong, but I'm not sure how much use it's going to see because of that.
Well, the other interesting thing is that now there are a lot more useful 5 mana cards that Winter can use.
Right.
Because I'm not gonna count Rhyme Rings, okay? That thing's 2 mana. But like Rock Workers died, right? And Moment's Peace isn't being used. Frozen Core isn't being used. This is a nice mana slot to be used by Winter now. You know, it's not ruining curves entirely.
And, maybe this is like you play this and Void Surgers, and you kind of keep one for your 5 mana play, depending on what your opponent is doing, and cycle the other one. Like, that's perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, the Void Surgers was specifically the card that I was thinking of. In a situation where your opponent puts 3 units in a column, if you have front, in other words, let's say you've got 1 unit that's like, more than halfway down the board, putting the Void Surgers just adjacent to the middle of the 3 units in that column hits, activates, and clears all 3. But Void Surgers also can deal with units that are spaced around or spaced sideways, or it's a more flexible card. It does need an activation of 3 units within a surrounding kind of a perimeter, which is sometimes difficult. I can't decide. It might be the right thing, Sabaiku, to play both, trying to make your opponent have to guess which one's in hand at any moment, but I don't know.
But they're useful in different situations, right? Look at Chilled Stone Dames. If it survives a trade and destroys even 1 unit, you're thrilled. Like, it did what you want it to do. It's got movement, which Void Surgers does not, and that's an
Fair.
important effect.
Yeah.
You gotta keep that in mind. And it's something that you can buff and continue to get value from. If you're playing a slower deck, if you use it to clear, your opponent gets forced back to their baseline now. Blessed with Brawn is up next in your mana slot, maybe.
Yeah, and even if they're a bit underleveled, obviously it's going to be a bit harder to activate, but it still has the same powerful ability, right?
Right, that's the part that's nuts. I'm trying to figure out boards that would have big value in the mid board and then like a cheap, small, weak minion up front. I'm
Well,
trying to
you can
imagine.
combo it with Hunter's Vengeance, though.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah. You could combo it with Hunter's Vengeance. You could even combo it with, something like just your gifted recruits to chip down the first unit, so that way you do get the value trade with the Stone Dames. And there's a lot of things you can do. I don't know. If Zuri Swarm ends up becoming a huge deal, I think Chilled Stone Dames becomes a huge counter.
If Zuri Swarm becomes a big deal, then we have to start calling Arthas Hipster Arthas, because he was there before it was popular.
Very true.
Yeah.
He will no longer
I'm gonna be doing that deck again.
he will no longer be Whale Arthas. He will be Hipster Arthas. He was into him before it was cool. All right, guys, with that, that ends all of our buffs, nerfs, and burfs. What do we think overall? How do these changes make you feel about the new year?
I am so happy that they're making giant changes like this. For one, they added an entirely new mechanic, right? And then like having some serious buffs like with Sunbeam and the Chilled Stone Dames. These are very big changes, and not to mention the quality of life too. It's a really nice step in the right direction. It just makes me anticipate even more what the big third Sheepyard update is gonna be if they're capable of doing this stuff and just a monthly update.
That's a really great point. I'm so looking forward to what's coming in the future. We talked last time about how it looks like they're really setting the table. I love to see the legendaries that aren't played very much get a little buff, because I really do think these should be powerful cards that have an impact on the game. And to see Cordia get a buff, to see Zuri get a buff, like these cards just weren't played very much at all, and now they're viable. I mean, admittedly, the jury is still out on Zuri, but I do think that you'll be able to get some use out of it. And the quality of life changes, like you said. I just want to bring that up again. The fact that they care enough about the little things to make it just more easy to get through your collection, to give a discount on the brawl. Like, they want to keep people having fun in the game, and not do the laborious tasks of building a deck that takes 20 minutes when it could take 2. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll say that one of the things that I think they've done a pretty good job of so far is finding ways of bringing extra cards into the meta. We've talked about that quite a bit. So, Baiko, I know you touched on it. But the whole idea of introducing an entire new keyword to the game, and rather than doing it by bringing in new cards, by simply bringing it to cards that have already existed but didn't see adequate levels of play, I think is brilliant. I love the idea of vitality. If the game has poison, it should have vitality. Like, one versus the other makes so much sense. So I'm glad to see it's finally there. It is funny that I was just commending Sheepyard for having a very steady hand on the tiller, not even a full episode ago. Earlier this episode, I was saying how they're doing small changes, and here we are looking through this and going, well, so much for the small changes. Some of these are giant. Uh, and I'm excited about that too, I guess. Overall, I think with all of these, I look at Link Golem still as I don't know if it's enough, and that's the one that really sticks out in my mind as the one that could end up being a little bit of a misfire. I want to be wrong. I don't want Link Golems to get Warsong Commandered. I don't want it to get nerfed out of existence. So I hope I'm wrong on that. It's the only one that has me nervous. The other ones have me excited. I can't wait to play on all of this stuff. So moving on from there, guys, the tournament, the Conquest tournament is starting up. Arthas, talk us through what's going on.
Unfortunately, signups have closed, but its group stage of the game now, of the tournament, is starting up, and matches are starting to be played. It's pretty exciting, and it should end by the end of this month, December 31st or so. And I think we'll keep you updated, see who won and stuff. I think that would be pretty nice to give a shout out to those people in the community who are really showing off their kind of skills.
Yeah, unfortunately, our next episode will probably air something like January 6th. So we'll give the shout out, but it'll be almost a week late. Our apologies on that. So, Baiko, did you end up deciding to join or not? I've never even asked.
Yep, I did register.
Yeah.
I am active. I am in one of the groups with 5 other members of the community, and I'm looking forward to getting my butt kicked in my first tournament.
Oh,
I
best.
wonder if I get to see you in the knockouts though, Subaiko. We can battle it out.
Oh gosh, I hope not.
The last thing you want to do is have to go up against a whale. Although it is an equal, so it actually doesn't matter how mature your library is. Everybody's playing with level 1 cards. Lastly, guys, we got an email from one of the people I'm a biggest fan of, so I'm really touched that he decided to reach out to us again. We've received some feedback from him before. I guess I'll read this one. It's from MCAM. He said, first of all, I couldn't ask my questions any other way than by email. The age shaming is real, and I tick all the check boxes you'll have mentioned at the end of the podcast from the blast from the past. Well, in this case, apparently even Arthas watches. His question, what advice would you give me to re-energize my passion for Stormbound? Obviously, I still care plenty for the game and look forward to all the small and big updates. However, it becomes more difficult to get those spark moments. Finding something to do, what I haven't done before, becomes quite difficult. Sorry if this question's a bit self-centered, and don't worry about that. That's fine, dude. And my last question, stop teasing me with the word burf. Nah, I'm kidding. Keep up the entertaining podcast. Well, sorry, there's a lot of burfs.
Not that you even mentioned him too. Good job. The timing.
Right? So Arthas, I don't think Subaiku and I have as well developed a library as you. So of the three of us, you're the one who's played the most factions, to Diamond, deck style
Mm-hmm.
Diamond, etc. What do you do after you've, like, for example, exhausted all the different Shadowfen builds possible?
Yeah, pretty interesting that you mentioned Shadowfen because I don't remember. I think it's been a month now since I played the Shadowfen game. I know a
What?
trader.
Brewed
I'm gonna be honest. I got a little bored. It's a bit too strong with nuts. Okay, it's just way too strong. And I have played so many different things in Shadowfen. I mean, playing Shadowfen basically my entire career. I've known so many different combos. But exciting though. At least the Shadowfen Dragons is gonna be something I'm going to be trying for sure. But regards to the other factions though, it's hard for me to like relate to MKM yet because I am still starting with doing the bunch of different combinations you can be doing for the other factions, and I'm still finding excitement whenever I find new ones, especially when people are posting really nice decks, out there in the Discord. It's nice to join those and try them out or do some kind of variation of them. Those are usually my inspirations when I find decks that people are trying out on the Discord. Maybe something MCAM would do, but I know he does that too. During his streams, he takes some deck suggestions too. But I mean, for someone like MCAM who's been playing so long, man, he probably have tried so many countless things already, and with such a large collection with so many viable cards, right? I'm sure he's tried so many things, and it's definitely concerning because when you do reach that point, it's hard to motivate yourself. I know there are other people outside of MCAM who are suffering too, but I am still optimistic though because I remember Sheepyard mentioned that they're putting a really big update, right? And it's supposed to solve three of the biggest problems of Stormbound, and that's the farming, matchmaking, and end game content. So I guess I honestly would rather wait and see what they have for that before I have any more advice.
That's fair. And look, while Freeloader and I can't talk in a way that's directly comparable, I want to make it clear this isn't just a problem for endgame players or max level players, right? Like the question really comes down to how do you continue to motivate yourself to play a game even if you like the game when progression stalls? And I can definitely say, a few months in, I felt the same way. Like I got to a point that was as far as I felt like my card levels could take me, and then I just kind of had to sit and play for months to accumulate resources so that I could then make it a little further. And I did make it a little bit further every month, but like a little bit is the key phrase there. It's not like early on when you just jump into silver and then jump into gold, and then you can even make it into platinum pretty early if you're playing an aggressive deck. I mean, ask Reckless Rush about that. Well, you did ask Reckless Rush about that. But then the progression kind of slows down and it stalls, and you feel like, is this even worth putting my time into anymore? Am I going to get anywhere out of that? Yeah, finding different ways to challenge yourself. Maybe you want to challenge yourself to build a deck around a particular card. Maybe you want to challenge yourself to save up resources and brawl as far as you can. Maybe try to find alternate ways to progress that aren't really tied to card level or rank. It's not easy. I do empathize with that.
So there are two things that come to mind for me in terms of suggestions. The first is that there is another play style available in the game already. It's Brawl. If you're finding that you reach the top tier of Diamond, and then there's just not much more to do for the season, you could perhaps challenge yourself to, pick your favorite Brawl and just go for it. See if you can beat the Merc. I mean, I don't know if anybody can, but if anybody can do it, maybe it's you, MCAM. It would be a fun challenge to watch happen in real time anyway, because there is a leaderboard for it. So we could all just kind of sit back, get some popcorn, and see who finishes higher.
Oh, and I forgot to mention because I'm a bit ashamed that I forgot to mention this because I knew exactly what I did that kept me energized in the game. And because I remember back then when I was low diamond, or actually when I was fresh diamond one, and I was just like stuck with like one or two decks, and then at that like stage, it's really hard to get any progress, and all you're doing is grinding fusion stones. it does get boring. But the thing that I did was that I involved myself very deeply in the community, most especially tournaments or any sort of community events, friendly matches, or whatever. Tournaments are, at least for me, the thing that really kept me going in this game because after going so far in ranked and being so used to the meta, tournaments are usually equal, so level 1 cards, and it feels like a completely different experience. Different players, different playstyles, different cards that you like never see before. And there's so many things you can try because you don't need to level up the cards. You just need to have them in your collection. And you have so many people to work with. Like with Faction Wars, you have a team that helps you out with deck building and trying new stuff when there are new bans. Those are the kind of things that kept my game experience really fresh. Not to mention the wholesome connections I build with the community members. That's the big one.
Very well said. And the last thing that I'll put in your mind, it goes back a couple of years now, but I used to watch a fantastic streamer by the name of Dog. He back then he went by HS Dog Dog on Twitter, on Twitch, pardon me. And Dog was playing Hearthstone one night, and a dude in chat just said something about, these freaking streamers with all the top cards, yada, yada, yada. It's really easy for them to make legend. Dog didn't particularly take kindly to it. And he said, wait, what? I'll tell you what, I'll start a new account tomorrow night and I will make legend from a new account in 24 hours. And he pulled a 24-hour stream, and he didn't even need all 24 hours. I think he did it in about 22 and a half hours or something like that. He went from a brand new account all the way through. I'm not suggesting that you try to do it all in one day, but as a way to help attract new viewers to your stream channel, it's a great way to show them how to properly build a library and how to sort of make decisions on what to invest in based on what what you're packing a lot of. You could maybe do that once or twice a year, so that in between you get to actually play with your normal account, but spend a week or whatever, just like this month, the first week, I'm just going to start a new account and show you guys how to build it, how to go. It's a fun new challenge to start over from scratch. I know a couple of people who've done it in different games, and they quite like it. Heck, even Reckless apparently did it. I still want to know what happened to his early account and whether or not I can get his cards.
You should follow his Rush to Diamond because that is his fresh account. And every single game is recorded and posted on YouTube, so you experience the full journey.
Somebody do that with Winter. I want to know what the weakest card level can do with.
Oh gosh.
All right, guys. Well, this episode has gone on for quite a while, but like we said, it's going to be our last of the year. Thank you so much for everything this year. I mean, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank all of our listeners for helping us build what has become this fun little project. We had no idea it was going to get here. Sabaiku, your thoughts?
It's been such a rewarding hobby. It's been great to interact with the community. If I had one word to sum it up, it would be fantastic.
And Arthas, what do you want to say to our listeners this year?
I really want to thank you guys for showing some real excitement. Because it's easy for me to feel like, oh, did they actually like this stuff? But then you guys really give us the reassurance. And even if we're repetitive sometimes, or we're doing certain content a lot, and I would think, oh, maybe they're tired of it now. Maybe we gotta innovate. But you guys are still saying, yeah, you like it, and it feels so amazing that we have this nice positive influence in the community. And not to mention, I am still very, very honored that you guys chose me as a third host. I'm very happy to be spending so much time with you and learning about you guys. So it's amazing.
Honestly, we're still shocked you said yes. So, it's usually. All right, guys. Well. Here's to a fantastic and even better 2021 than 2020. And that's going to do it for this episode. For Arthas, Sabaiku, I am Freeloader. We are the Brewed Sages, reminding you, especially this time of year, please be responsible and stay hydrated.